Welcome to SCO's daily updates, where we provide all the latest updates from the Supreme Court on live sessions. I'm R. Sai Spandana. I'm an associate editor at Supreme Court Observer. Today we'll be talking about two major cases that came before the Supreme Court, both before Chief Justice D.Y. Chandrachud. The first case relates to a joint petition filed by 14 opposition parties against the skewed jurisdiction of CBI and ED bodies. And the second case is a judgment pronounced by a bench comprising of Chief Justice Chandrachud and Justice Hima Kohli, quashing the ban imposed on Malayalam news channel MediaOne. So the first case first. So essentially, the Indian National Congress and 13 other opposing political parties of the country filed a joint petition before the Supreme Court alleging that there were wrongful arrests and probes and investigations being conducted on members that belong to these opposing political parties. Senior Advocate A.M. Singhvi represented the petitioners before a bench comprising Chief Justice Chandrachud and Justice Pardiwala today. And he drew the bench's attention to statistics of arrests and convictions by the CBI and ED bodies since 2014. That is, since when the present party came into power. He stated that since 2014, there has been a 600% increase in the number of cases that the CBI and ED have probed into. Further, he stated that of the total number of arrests and convictions made, 95% of the people belonged to opposing parties rather than the ruling party. And he stated that these statistics clearly show that there is a certain level of skewed application of the jurisdiction of autonomous bodies like the CBI and the ED against opposition parties. And he states that this has a chilling effect or a negative effect on the democratic fabric of the country, because these 14 parties represent almost 42% of the voting power of the country. So he tried to convince the court that this is a matter of grave concern, and so the court must frame guidelines that should be followed in for the arrests in the investigations and probes made by the CBI and ED. Mr. Singhvi, however, stated that he's not trying to pretend that this is a public interest litigation in any way. And he said that whatever the guidelines, if the Supreme Court so decides to make, will be applicable only on prospective cases, that is, cases going forward, and will not in any way affect the ongoing investigations that are being conducted by the CBI and ED bodies. However, the bench seemed very unconvinced by this, because they stated that the cause of action in this case comes from the fact that political party members are being allegedly being treated disproportionately in these probes and investigations by CBI and ED. So, to frame general guidelines that are applicable to everybody on this cause of action in a petition filed by 14 parties jointly and not in individual cases is very problematic and cannot be done. So the bench instead said that the petitioners were free to approach the court in individual cases or in groups of cases that can be clustered together and then can be taken forward. So ultimately, Mr. Singhvi withdrew the petition, and the matter was sort of dismissed by the court. But there is an opportunity for them to file individual cases on the matter going forward. Now, to move on to our main story this evening, this concerns a judgment pronounced by the Supreme Court, the bench comprising of Justice D.Y. Chandrachud and Justice Hima Kohli, as I stated earlier, where they quashed the ban imposed on the telecast of Malayalam news channel MediaOne. Now, I will be talking about this case broadly in the following sections. Firstly, what the case is about. Second, how it reached the Supreme Court. Third, what the arguments made by the petitioners in this case are. And finally, what the judgment passed by the court today was. So, what is this case about? MediaOne is a Malayalam news channel that got its rights from the Information and Broadcasting Ministry in 2011 and started telecasting in live telecasting functioning as a channel in 2013. Now, last year in January 2022, the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting refused to renew their license. They stated that the Ministry of Home Affairs did not clear the renewal of license for security reasons, and therefore withdrew all the telecast rights of MediaOne. MediaOne reportedly has shareholders that belong to Jamaat-e-Islami Hind, which is a religious Muslim organization based in Kerala. So MediaOne approached the Kerala High Court after this ban was imposed on them. The Kerala High Court received arguments by the central government in a sealed cover, which means that the reasons for the ban were not known to MediaOne, but it was only restricted to the central government and the bench. The arguments or the basis on which the ban was imposed on MediaOne was not made publicly available or even informed to MediaOne as a whole. Based on the sealed cover evidence, the Kerala High Court upheld the ban imposed on MediaOne and stated that for in the interest of national security and public interest, the ban was valid. Now, MediaOne approached the Supreme Court in a special leave petition. They claimed the hearing happened in November last year before a bench comprising Justice Chandrachud and Justice Kohli. The petitioners claimed that the sealed cover evidence provided was not correct because it denied MediaOne the chance to defend themselves or reply or respond to the arguments made by the central government. And it also creates a bias in the minds of judges. Secondly, they also said that it is mandatory and absolutely necessary for parties to be informed about the reasons of the ban imposed on MediaOne. So that, and without proper reasons, a ban cannot simply be imposed. Third, they also stated that the Ministry of Information Broadcasting acted as a postman of sorts to the Ministry of Home Affairs by simply communicating the reason of national security that the Ministry of Home Affairs stated and not providing any further reasons beyond that. Now, the bench even last time questioned the central government on whether they should have communicated the reasons for denying the license renewal to MediaOne. And the central government then stated that in the interest of national security, those reasons could not be disclosed in open court or to MediaOne. The bench asked if maybe the sources of the information can be redacted and at least the arguments made available, but even then the central government refused to do so. So today, the Supreme Court, Chief Justice Chandrachud and Justice Kohli passed the final judgment in this case. They quashed the ban imposed on MediaOne, and they stated that the sealed cover evidence essentially denied MediaOne their right in a courtroom proceeding to present their side of arguments and to completely hide the reasons for such a ban, breached their the right of the enjoyed by the media under Article 19 of the Constitution. They also said that with the vague reason of national security and public interest, that's not reason enough for the government to not act fairly. They said that the government had to act in a fair and just manner while making these decisions. And as far as the connection to the Muslim religious group in Kerala is concerned, they said that mere links is not reason enough to impose a ban on the interests of national security. And secondly, even if there was such a link, the organization in question, the organization in question was not a banned one. So even in that sense, the ban imposed was not right. So they quashed the ban and passed the final judgment in this case. So this wraps up our daily updates from the Supreme Court today. Stay tuned to our website and all our social media platforms for more updates going forward, and we will see you on the session again soon. Thank you.